This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little bit more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com. It's February 8th, and on this day in 1992, it was Shaq versus Laettner in a college basketball duel that may have had a little more riding on it than just a regular season win or loss. Christian Laettner and Shaquille O'Neal were the two best college basketball players in the country during the '92 season. They would both be first-team All-Americans at the end of it. And with the Olympics coming up in Barcelona, featuring the debut of the Dream Team that summer, and the U.S. Olympic Basketball Committee wanting to pay homage to amateurism by adding a college player to that roster, the two best going head-to-head offered a pretty good showcase of who should get that spot. And you better believe that Chuck Daly was watching this nationally telecast game on CBS. So top-ranked Duke on the road at number 20 LSU. And Shaq, who was a junior at this point, was putting on a show on both ends of the floor.
Well, they are penetrating again.
Oh, the Shaq knocks it into the seats.
Well, they wanted goaltending on it. Notice how they play Anderson for the shot, make him put the ball on the floor.
Good fake by O'Neal.
Oh,
The scoop. Oh, that's a 7-footer making a move like that.
A double pump inside 6-7 feet.
Brandon pushes it up a
Up in the
4-on-1. O'Neal. A Shaq attack.
The Blue Devils were playing without point guard Bobby Hurley that day, who was out with a broken foot. It took a while longer for Laettner to get into the flow of the game without his regular showrunner on the floor, but once he got going, he was tough to stop.
Grant Hill on the dish. O'Neal made him pass it up. Great interior passing, and Laettner with a jam. They got Shaq 12 in one game.
Standard procedure for him. There's Laettner stepping out.
Just an attitude about a good point guard.
Wow,
Laettner for three
outside.
It was pretty well known at this point that Shaq was not the best free throw shooter. And I don't know if this was the first iteration of Hack-a-Shaq, but it was one of the early versions of the strategy if it wasn't. Now, down the stretch, Coach K put some designated hackers on the floor to send O'Neal to the free throw line, and that strategy paid off.
A 1-on-1 situation twice. And O'Neal bricks another one.
He's 3 for 8 from the line today. I think it's going to start working on his mind a little bit.
If he could have hit a few more of those, LSU may have been able to pull off the upset. Instead, Duke won 77-67. Shaq won the head-to-head matchup with 25 points, 12 rebounds, and an impressive 7 block shots, while Laettner ended the day with 22 points and 10 rebounds. But of course, we all know who got the invite to play with the Dream Team that summer. On this day in 1986, 5'7" Anthony Spud Webb won the NBA's dunk contest. The NBA All-Star Game was in Dallas that weekend, and Spud, a Dallas native, was about to put on a show that most could not believe or even fathom. Spud was the everyman, the representative for all of those who had not been blessed with typical NBA height, soaring to a literal height that the majority of us can only dream about. Spud impressed on his early dunks and easily made it through to the finals. His Atlanta Hawks teammate Dominique Wilkins was the defending champ and was one of the great all-around dunkers in the game at this point, and with Michael Jordan sitting this one out due to a foot injury, Neek thought he was a stone-cold lock to repeat. In fact, the only reason that Spud was even in this event was due to Michael's injury. With his airness sidelined, the dunk contest needed to fill the slot. Well, Webb's agent, Bill Blakely, successfully lobbied the NBA to let him participate. And once he was officially entered, ribbing from his teammates started. None of them had ever seen him dunk. But Spud had grown accustomed to quieting the doubters. When he was in junior high, his coach told him to go sit in the stands. He didn't belong with the big boys on the bench. And when he finally got his chance to play, he poured in 20 points in his first game. And despite being an all-state performer as a high schooler in Texas, Division I schools looked down on him. So he started at Midland Junior College before being noticed by Jim Valvano at NC State. Now here he was in a land of skywalking giants during All-Star Weekend, ready to prove himself once again. Prior to his first dunk, Webb walked up under the basket and stared up at it.
And John, it looks like he's measuring things out pretty closely.
Well, he is. He's got a flair for the dramatic, Rick, and he's a hometown guy. The crowd really loves him.
Some thought he was taking a measure of what he was about to attempt. Instead, that was a suggestion from Hawks PR man Bill Needle, who told him that it would provide a visual to the judges just how far he would soon climb. Few knew that Webb sported a 42-inch vertical leap, and despite not being able to palm the basketball, he pulled off dunk after amazing dunk.
Spud's first attempt.
Oh, my!
5'7", Spud Webb.
Oh, double clutch two-hander. High tossing lob and reverse jam.
Yes, come on now, come on.
Oh, my, that's the cherry on the sundae.
All of those dunks impressed the judges, the 17,000 at Reunion Arena, and the millions more watching on television. And then it was time for Spud's last jam.
Final dunk now.
Woo! And Spud Webb comes through in the clutch to put the pressure on Dominique. This is so great. I mean, here's a couple of teammates. They live together for 7-8 months a year. And now they're going at each other. Great feeling.
Wilkins tried to follow that up, and even though his two-handed jackknife was impressive and may have won him the title in any other year, it just wasn't good enough on this day to beat Spud Webb.
Our new slam dunk champion with an incredible upset, Spud Webb.
Hey, I needed to call a quick timeout to let you know that we're giving away a $50 gift card to Homefield Apparel. Have a favorite college sports team? Of course you do. You're listening to a sports podcast. Well, Homefield Apparel has all the great gear so you can support your team in style. Jerseys, hoodies, hats, and a whole lot more are available in your team's colors and insignias. So go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways for your chance at a $50 gift card to Homefield Apparel. I've also put a link in the show notes. Now, let's get back out there. We've got more of this episode to do. On this day in 1996, the NFL and the city of Cleveland reached an agreement to keep the name, colors, and history of the Browns franchise in Cleveland, allowing owner Art Modell to take everything else with him to Baltimore. And we've talked a little bit about Art Modell already and his unpopular decision to fire legendary coach Paul Brown 2 years after he bought the team in 1961. Well, now 35 years later, Modell was anxious to move the team to Baltimore for a fresh start and the promise of a new stadium. Modell had actually announced the move in November of 1995, one day before a Cleveland referendum vote overwhelmingly approved a tax increase in the city to fund a renovation to the stadium. But at that point, it was too late, with Modell saying, "The bridge is down, burned, disappeared. There's not even a canoe there for me." Several lawsuits were filed in an attempt to keep the Browns in Cleveland, until on this day in 1996, the agreement to keep the name Browns, the orange, brown, and white colors, the intellectual property, and the history of the Browns in Cleveland was reached. The NFL took over the franchise in Cleveland, promising a new stadium by the 1999 season, and told Modell he could go to Baltimore and the team would be considered an expansion team. The deal was ratified by the NFL owners 2 days later, putting the Browns on hiatus until the stadium and team could be built. On this day in 1964, the U.S. won its first Alpine skiing medals in the Winter Olympics. This was the men's slalom in Innsbruck, Austria. The Austrians were the favorites not only because they were on their home turf, but they had been dominant in the Alpine events 4 years prior, winning the medal count and winning gold and silver in the slalom. Add to that, the Austrians had already won the downhill gold and finished second and third in the giant slalom. Blizzard-like conditions hampered the morning run and slowed the course down considerably. Billy Kidd was one of those American hopefuls. In his morning run, he caught an edge but recovered enough to post a time just outside of the top 3. In his afternoon run, though, he blistered the faster course and put up the best time. His combined time of 2 minutes 11.27 seconds was good enough for the silver medal. His teammate Jim Wega overcame some tough draws, starting late in both the morning and afternoon runs, when carved ruts are bad and conditions tend to be worse, but he put together 2 consistent runs to finish on the podium in third place, 25 hundredths of a second behind Kidd. The Austrians did win gold with Joseph Stiegler, interestingly enough, a guy who was only on the team due to a fan petition to put him there. He took the top spot 14 hundredths of a second faster than Kidd. And in 1998, women's hockey premiered at the Olympics in Nagano, Japan. Finland blanked Sweden 6-0 in the inaugural game on this day. Canada bageled host country Japan later that night with a 13-0 drubbing. The USA women would go on to win gold 9 days later. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. If you have Michelangelo on your 3 guests, living or dead, that you'd invite to a dinner party,
What you talking about, Willis?
you may want to rethink that. Apparently, the great artist never bathed and rarely changed his clothes.
What did you say?
Yeah, not to mention that he's been dead for 450 years. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.